legal support, a whole bunch of things. And it's been an amazing collaboration between Info Exchange and a number of commercial companies, actually. And that's one of the really unique things about Info Exchange. We have a blend of what you consider the more traditional not-for-profit type activities, but we've also been able to collaborate private and public partnerships to really have impact at scale, which is what excites me.
Fantastic. So Emma, for you in doing the board observership program, not sure if I should be asking you this in front of Morgana, but was Info Exchange your preference for this program? And how did you choose? How did you get matched up? How did that process work?
Good question. So I was fairly open to any organisation. When you apply for the programme, you can choose specific parts of the sector, and I was just really excited and enthusiastic to be part of the programme and to have the opportunity. So it's actually the Observership programme team that match you up with boards. So I had an interview with Morgana and one of the other board members at Info Exchange. And actually, as soon as I went to speak to them, I thought, oh, this is a great matching. This will be a really great fit, and hopefully, I'll get this position as an observer on this board. So it all worked out perfectly, and it's been a great organisation to spend the year with.
I am just getting a message. This is fascinating. I don't know how people will tell us this, but oh no, it says we're live. That's all right. So I just got a message from somebody saying that they couldn't see us live, but it appears that others can. So I am just going to assume that we are going nicely. Fabulous. Okay. And so Morgana, why did Info Exchange get involved in the board observership program?
Yep. I guess there's a few reasons. For a while, we've been having a conversation about diversity, and I think so often the diversity conversation gets framed in gender. And I think it's so much broader than that, life experience, ethnicity, risk appetite, it's big. And Info Exchange itself is an organisation with a fairly young workforce and a very diverse workforce. And for a long time, we've been working towards having a more gender diverse board, more experience diverse board, but we don't have a terribly age diverse board. So we were really interested in the observership program from that angle of bringing in different perspectives, different experiences, different life stages, I guess. And at the time, we also were thinking it was a great path to potentially seating new board members. In the period between when we first got interested in the program and then when we had our first observer last year, we went through a merger with Connecting Up. So as a consequence of that, our board is actually now much bigger. So we had a conversation at board level around, well, does this still make sense? And overwhelmingly, the board felt that it's very important to offer mentoring and development opportunities for people, for pathways to boards, particularly younger people, because it's actually not that easy. So there was a lot of enthusiasm to continue, and we had a fantastic observer last year, Zoe. And at the end of that experience, we reviewed it and we thought, actually, no, this is really good. And so we signed up for another year. And it's been a great experience. It brings diversity of thinking and insight to us. And I think it's a good experience for our observers too.
Well, we're about to hear about that. Although before I ask Emma that, Zoe, your observer from last year, what's she doing now in terms of board stuff?
Yes, so because of life circumstances, she's taken a small pause, but she's been using the period to really go out and network, both leveraging a series of one-on-one conversations with the board members from Info Exchange and tapping into their networks, which is fantastic because that's what the program's all about as well. And then looking more broadly as well.
Fantastic. Sorry, I keep looking at stuff here. I'm not checking my text messages. Well, actually, I kind of are, but I'm just trying to keep an eye on all of the technology as well. So I am listening at the same time. It's all about this. So Emma, for your participation in the program, how have you found it? What have you been involved in? What does it mean? I was going to say day to day. It's probably not quite day to day for you, but what's it meant for you? What have you been involved in? What can you tell us? And you might not be able to tell us too much about the conversations that you've been involved in, but what are you getting out of it?
I'm getting a lot out of it. So I think one of the great bits has been that it's a program that has a really nice structure. So in addition to attending the board meetings, info exchange. I get some training and networking opportunities through the Observership program. So we've done some training with the AICD and with the Ethics Centre and the networking side of things there. So that's been great. And I've met Zoe from last year through Morgana, which has been great. And then in terms of my time at Info Exchange, I attend every board meeting as an observer, which is fantastic. And I've also been joining the strategy committee and the risk and audit committees just to be able to kind of sit in. And so I've been learning loads, and it's been a great opportunity to kind of meet different board members. The circumstances have obviously been a bit different to what we might have expected when we kicked off at the beginning of the year, and the world's moved online. But again, it has been amazing to be watching this very experienced, knowledgeable board navigating through this, very unknown circumstances and unknown time, and watch them and the executive and how they work together. And it's just been a great development experience. So, and then regular catch-ups, big part of the board liaison. So having regular catch-ups with Morgana, and how lucky I've been to kind of have a real mentor who in Morgana in this as well. So it's been fantastic.
I didn't pay her to say that, honestly.
Well, I'm going to ask you about them. You're doing this beautifully, because I'm going to ask you about that board liaison role in a moment. But just before we go there, so you go to the strategy committee meetings, you go to the risk and audit meetings, you go to the board meetings. Are you also on all of, for example, the emails that go between the boards in between about everything? So you're involved in everything. So Can I check for either of you, the risk of being a shadow board member, how is that managed by the program or by the organisation? I'm not sure who this question is for, whether it's for you, Emma, or you, Morgana. Either of you can jump in.
So for the program, we sign a non-disclosure when we sign up to the program, and so there's an understanding that we have confidentiality requirements, and they are reiterated through the training processes that we do with the AICD. So that's my side of things. Morgana, you might have a board perspective.
Yeah, look, on my side, we as part of our interview process, both years, we've had an explicit question around, what are your expectations of the role? To make sure that any participant really understands that it is an observership role. It's not about being actively involved in decision making. But we've been learning on the journey as well. So from our very first participant, our board chair sat down, had a one-on-one meeting, talked about how we'd engage them, and we had a sort of a clear window of opportunity for them to input. And that worked quite well last year, and then we've kind of tweaked it a little bit more this year. So it's quite structured. So we're not asking them to sit in the corner and be silent, because that's not productive either. But we try to put fairly clear boundaries around it. So it's not inputting into the active decision making, but there are opportunities to give input and insight, particularly if it's an area that they're particularly knowledgeable in or have experience.
Fantastic. And in fact, this is not about the board observership program, but just a question about info exchange. On the committees, are there any other external people to the organisation, or are the committees just made up of board members?
No, it's just board members.
Okay, yeah. So Emma mentioned the liaison role. I think when I put this on the Facebook Live, I said mentor and mentee, and I don't think that's the language that the board observership program uses. I think it's board liaison. So you're the board liaison person, Morgana, and you're the observer, aren't you, Emma? Just to get my terminology correct. Okay. So Morgana, what's your role as board liaison?
It's probably a bit of a mixed bag. Championing the program within my board, which isn't that hard to do because we've had such fantastic observers now. Everyone's completely on board and loves it. But it's being that, I guess, that interlock between Catherine Reisner, who runs the Melbourne program, and us. So she'll regularly check in with me, one, to see how our observer is going, but also to check our participation in the next year. And then for each year we participate, there's a very complicated matching process that I don't envy the observership team at all. So, and we'll talk about application dates and things in a moment, but probably around August time, we provide some input to them, and it's usually done through me, and I facilitate the conversation at the board and then take the information back to the observership program about the kind of profile that we're looking for. And we'll give them some indication around that. And then they will, at a certain point, usually maybe around October, send us 4 candidates. And I have to say, both years, the calibre of candidates has been exceptional. And then we kind of shortlist usually down to 3 candidates to interview. And I have to do a shout out to my colleague, Jennifer Williams. She's been my partner in crime for interviews for the last 2 years and has been excellent. She has so much experience.
Absolutely. So, I'm happy to give a shout out to Jennifer. She spoke at one of the breakfasts a while ago on your recommendation. Thank you. And she is magnificent. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you.
So we conduct kind of half an hour interviews, and it's an opportunity. We usually have 3 or 4 key questions that we ask. And then we also spend a bit of time actually just telling the observer about info exchange and what to expect. And then we usually have a challenging conversation because we have such great candidates to try and figure out who is the right one for us. And it's an interesting conversation actually, because at the moment we know we're not looking for board members, unfortunately actually, because it would be really nice if we could offer candidates at the end. But we know that we're doing it as a development program. So it helps us really kind of fine tune what we're looking for in terms of giving an opportunity to someone who we think has fantastic potential, who can then take this and really run with it and go somewhere with their board career. So yeah, and then I go back to Catherine with a prioritised list, usually with some commentary about actually they're all fantastic. And then I wait anxiously in anticipation while she runs some amazing matching thing across. And I should say, I think they had about 70 to 80 participants this year from nearly 400 applications. And that's just for Melbourne. So you can imagine the mechanics that go into that. And then around November, December, we find out who our person is. And then I usually meet with them in December before the program starts in January. And this year, I think one of the things that worked really nicely is I talked to Zoe, our previous observer, and we'd agreed that actually it made a lot of sense to have an overlap. So Zoe attended the first board meeting of this year with Emma, which meant that there was a chance for then Emma to have, you know, an informal conversation with Zoe about what she'd heard, what she wasn't clear about, as well as having a conversation with me. So it just gave kind of an extra avenue. And I think it was nice for Zoe just to have the extra meeting as well. Yeah. And we got really lucky because our board meeting was in February and we had an induction in person for Emma and an in-person board meeting before everything then went a bit crazy and went virtual. So
right, yeah. So well, that must have been. I'm guessing that's how you met Zoe then, Emma. Having that crossover, it's kind of nice. They get to pass the baton to each other in that as well. I was just thinking, Morgana, when you were saying about the difficult choice, I think this happened, and Emma, you might know from the other participants, but I'm pretty sure I spoke to the chair of another board and they couldn't choose between the 2 candidates they have. So they took them both. So some of the organisations I think have more than one observer. Is that right? Is that very common, Emma?
I'm not sure. I know it happens in a few instances. I know from when I've met other people taking part. Yes, it does happen that they've taken more than one.
It'd be interesting to look at some stage how that works for them and whether they get more out of the program because they've got somebody else to work with, or somehow it might mean that you just have to share things out a bit more and they don't get as much of the experience. But I imagine it's a fantastic experience any way you look at it.
Talia, can I do one quick shout out?
Sure.
Because I think it's an amazing program, and as I said, the caliber of candidates is fantastic. We actually need more boards.
Now, yes, I'm so glad you asked me that, because I confess when I was thinking about this, it's about showcasing the program for people to apply. And I know we're going to talk about dates for more Emmas, basically, to apply. But you are absolutely right, Morgana. This is such a magnificent opportunity for organisations. So, yes, talk us through why organisations should be part of this program. I mean, other than all the reasons we've already listed, but give us the elevator pitch on that.
Oh, look, I just think it's an amazing opportunity to tap into some very, very intelligent and emotionally intelligent people in a way that you maybe wouldn't normally have access to. I think the program's very professionally run. And, you know, the boards involved are a real mix. They're all not-for-profit boards, but they vary significantly in scale. You know, you've got some of the large international NGOs, you've got, you know, Info Exchange, which is a reasonably large established not-for-profit, and then you've got some smaller community-based, arts-based, you know, there's quite a spectrum. Yeah. And I just think it would be great if more boards would be involved, because then we could get more participants. And And for smaller organisations, it's a way to tap into potential future board members outside your own personal networks. And that also, I think, is quite appealing. And that was certainly, as I said, where we started.
Is it only not-for-profit organisations, and is it limited to, I would have to check with Victorian government around this, I guess, but I'm on 2 Victorian government boards. Is there any government boards? Is there any private sector boards? No.
I don't think so. There's quite a few private sector companies that sponsor the program.
But they don't have people on their boards. That's interesting.
Yeah, I believe it's been designed, and I don't know whether it's for legal reasons or not.
Yeah. Yes.
But I believe it's been designed purely to be not-for-profit boards.
Okay.
But it's an interesting question about the government boards.
Yeah, I mean, why? Yeah, anyway, I'll be interested. Is it Catherine that runs the program?
The Melbourne program, yeah.
Catherine, give me a call. Let's have a chat about it. Okay, so Morgana, you talked about the interview process before, the application process. I'm guessing you get a stack of applications, you sort through them, and then, as you said, you interview a couple of people. Actually, no, I'm going to come to Emma first about that, and then I'll come back to you, Morgana. Emma, what was the interview experience like?
Yeah, it was good. So you get interviewed by the program itself first. So you have an interview with the program team, and then interview with the board. So I turned up to we did it at the AICD offices on a whatever. It feels like a long time ago. Time was kind of in this tunnel now.
Yes.
Sometime towards the end of last year, and got to meet with these guys, and it was a really nice opportunity to kind of think about and talk about why I was interested and articulate that, and also to understand about the work of Info Exchange and what that fit looked like. So I actually walked away from the interview even more excited at the prospect of taking part. So I was very hopeful that I'd get a spot.
It is often the case, not just for board observership programs, but in fact, even for jobs, but certainly for boards, that once you've done all the research about the organisation and pitched yourself, you become a bit more excited about it, which is great when it works out well. Morgana, from your side, when you're interviewing, and I know we're about to go into the process again, but are you able to tell us the types of questions that you ask and what you're looking for?
Yeah. So usually we sort of start with a question around, how did you hear about the program and why did you apply? Just to understand a little bit about people's motivation, their interest, and quite often, because we're talking about people who often don't have board experience. But for a lot of them, they're actually at that intersection of their careers where in their day-to-day job, they're starting to do things that are touching on boards. Yes. And so quite a few of them have expressed an interest from the point of view of just better understanding what boards do. So as part of their day-to-day job, they can work more effectively. But also quite often that's coupled with having an interest in potentially being involved with boards in the future. And wanting to understand more about how they work and how you might find board positions. And then I'd probably say most of the participants as well actually have some interest in, social impact and doing good, for want of a better description. So the program often appeals from that perspective as well.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So that's kind of the first question. The second question is then, what are your expectations out of the program? And that's really, as I said before, that checkpoint to see, that they're not imagining that they're going to be in the weeds, actively, but at the same time that they have some expectation of, having a say and being there and so forth. And then we also ask the important question around what is your understanding of boards? Yep. Just to get a feel for how much they do and don't know. And not knowing a lot about boards isn't a showstopper, because obviously that's what the program's about, but just a bit of a temperature check to see that they're in the ballpark of sort of understanding what goes on.
Absolutely. And it's such a great point.
Did I ask you anything else?
Yeah.
I don't think so. No, I was just thinking. I was glad you were asked the question, because I was thinking it's in the back of one of my notebooks somewhere. I remember writing down my what I was saying in response and the things I had thinking about. No, I think that's it.
and it's that one about governance experience. It is key, isn't it? I think a lot of the times I hear all the time from people, oh no, I don't have any board experience. I've never been on a board. And then they'll slip in, oh, but I report to board, or I wrote these board papers, or, oh, I'm just on the school council, It's like, oh, right, schools, like there's no risk, there's no governance issues, there's no strategy issues there, is there? You know, so really being able to draw out that governance experience, which may not be board experience, but absolutely is governance experience, is key.
I think, Holly, to answer your other question, we were looking for diversity too.
Yes.
Because we were doing it as a mentoring opportunity, you know, as a development opportunity, we really wanted to look for candidates with diverse background that may not have had an opportunity otherwise. So I'm not going to lie, the fact that Emma was the first in her family to go to university caught my attention.
Yeah.
And I would say to anyone watching this, you know, spread it far and wide, let people know about it, because we are looking for people who might not have an obvious pathway to boards otherwise. And this is a real chance for them to get that foot in the door, versus those who perhaps through their personal networks, their life experience, their education, whatever, do have a pathway. So it is about trying to get cast the net as wide as possible to get as broad a candidate pool as possible.
Fantastic. And so the cohort then, Emma, your colleagues in the program, there's 70 to 80 of them, did I hear before?
In Melbourne, and then another 70 to 80, I think, similar numbers in Sydney.
Okay, so, I mean, Morgana's touched on diversity. For that group, who are they? Where are they from? What are they like?
Yeah, they're from all over the place. I think is and one of the nice things, particularly about the face-to-face training sessions we've had, is that the Observership program make a real effort to sit you on tables with different people at each session. So, you know, people who are working in the not-for-profit sector, but people who are working in the government sector, in the private sector, with all kinds of different skills. You know, people finance backgrounds, legal backgrounds, fundraising. All the kind of a really broad spectrum of men and women, people from very diverse backgrounds. So it's and people who are looking for an opportunity, I think, as Morgana said, who are looking for an opportunity to understand more about boards, but are also kind of interested in doing good in the world. So it's a really energetic group of people. It's great.
Oh, how fabulous. Okay, we're coming to the end of our time. So fantastic conversation about the program. I know Morgana never misses an opportunity to say how fabulous this program is, and I could not agree more. So this is a great way of, of encouraging people to do it. I'll take people through the key dates in just a minute, but before we do that, Morgana, I'm going to come to you first. What are the key points you want, maybe for organisations to take away from this? And then Emma, I'm going to come to you for what are the key points you want prospective participants to take away from this? So Morgana, what are the key things you want organisations to take away from this? Yeah,
I think it's an amazing program. The time commitment is really not that great, and the upside you get in terms of the caliber of observer, the connections, I just think it's fantastic. And actually, the other nice thing this year is the Observership program has been running a series of panel discussions on some kind of hot COVID topics, which has also been great. You know, so that I sent that out to all the members of the board. I think a few of them have joined at different stages. So that's just kind of an extra bonus that we wouldn't have had access to without being part of the program. So I think if you're on the board of a not-for-profit and you're not already involved and you're in Melbourne or Sydney, I would really seriously think about having a conversation at your board and do it. It's been wonderful.
Excellent. And in fact, I'm just thinking for in Melbourne or Sydney, there's probably some organisations, I mean, there's all organisations at the moment that are meeting via Zoom, but there would be some national organisations, I'm guessing, that meet this way, so people may be able to participate in those as well, no matter where they're from, which might be a useful way for other participants. Great, thanks Morgana. So Emma, from your perspective, what are the key things you want people to take away from the conversation we've had today?
I think I would just say, if you're interested in applying, definitely do apply. It's such a fantastic experience. It's such a fantastic opportunity, and I think you're getting the opportunity to get some training, to understand more about what a board does, particularly if you're interested in that, but don't quite understand the mechanisms and don't understand the responsibilities of a director as well. I think that's a really important part of it, that it makes sure you understand that for your future board roles and going into them. So I would certainly be saying, you know, if you have an interest, do apply and get that application in by the application, and then make the most of it if you get a place. You know, I've very much, when Morgana said, would you like to join one of the committees? I said, oh, I'd like to join both, please. That would be fantastic. Because I think it's a really unique opportunity, particularly at this stage in my career, to have that exposure and to a board and the work they're doing. So yeah, apply and then make the most of it when you get in.
Fantastic advice. Well, speaking of applications, I've just got the details in front of me. Now, the program, as I understand it, is for participants aged between 25 and 40. Is that right? So you've got to be between 25 and 40, presumably before the application date. It's, as Morgana has said, it's both in Sydney and Melbourne, and Sydney applications are already open and they close on the 2nd of August, which I think is just a week or two away. Melbourne applications close next week. So that's the 20th of July, because I know people might not be watching this right now. So Melbourne applications open next week on the 20th of July and they close on the 16th of August. So I'll make sure I put a link in the comments to the website so people can go there for all of their other questions as well. And I might even tag both of you. People might come to you for queries as well. So thank you so much for being here today and sharing about the Board Observership program. Fabulous program. I encourage organisations and individuals to be part of it. So thank you for being here to share it with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Sonia.
Great.
I think I've stopped the live stream. Let me just flick back.
Recording.
Yeah, we're definitely still recording. I thought I'd do that. I can probably stop that as well, but just let me nip over to Facebook and just there. I'm pretty sure it has finished. I'm just going to message Lisa just to make sure. Although if she's still listening, she will then message me and say, we finished live streaming. This will be great if we're not finished live streaming, that people are watching me doing this. This is awesome video. So, and if we're not, I don't quite know how to deal with that. Anyway, I'm going to imagine that we are. Anyway, she'll come back to me in a moment. Yes, it's stopped. Phew. Okay, we have now stopped. And in fact, I probably don't need to. Is there anything else we need to record on this? Probably not. I thought I'd record it just as backup.
So the only thing I meant to say, and I forgot to say, was that if people apply and don't get it the first year, don't give up. Keep applying.
I'll put that in the comments.
That's a good point.
Yeah, which is the same for every board role, to be honest.
Yes.
Yeah, that would have been. Anyway, I'll put it in the comments. Just try again, because yeah, it's whether it's this program or board roles. If I think about the Centre for Sustainability Leadership, where I ended up being the chair, that was my third application. I think I literally said to them, this is the third go. If you don't take me this time, I'm not, like, that's it. I'm never applying again. And they said, yeah, well, not only do we want you to be chair. It's like, oh, hang on a minute. That's not what I was expecting. So yeah, it's keep applying. I'll put it in the comments. Yay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing it so quickly.
Well, yeah, I think once it's on, Lisa, I got Lisa, my business manager, to have a look at it, just so that commented on your post. What's that? People are commenting on the, I don't know what that is. Anyway, I'll go and have a look at it later. People have commented on something. She said there was no questions, so that's good. Okay. But people might post questions during it, so I'll just make sure I keep an eye on it. And I think because I did it to the page rather than the group's a private group, so unless you're part of the group, you don't get to see it. But because it's on the page, it should be public. But again, who would know? Who would know how these things work? I don't know. It's all part of the experiment. And I think I can do this. I think I can export it from Facebook and I'll then put it on YouTube as well. So then it's also publicly available, and I'll share it in that way as well and give you both the links as well.
Yeah, that would be good. I'll pop it on my. I've actually, someone approached me through LinkedIn this week and just said, "Oh, hello, would you mind talking to me for 15 minutes about the Observership program and telling me what it's all about?" I said, "Sure, why not? It's the week of
Yeah, watch this video.
promoting." So, yeah, exactly. Now I'll be like, "Here's me on a video." Fabulous.
Oh, that's interesting. Lisa's saying it took about 9 minutes to appear in the Facebook feed, but I don't think that's right. I think that's just when she watched live, because every time you watch it, every time you watch it, it seems like it's live. So I think she couldn't find it initially. I think it was because my other screen. Anyway, I think it's more immediate than that. It just depends on when you hit watch.
Yep.
Because it seems like it's live no matter when you watch it. Like if we both go and watch it now, it'll all seem like it's live now. Anyway, you've got to go to a meeting, Emma. I'm mindful of your time and you want to get away from the screen, because I'm guessing your meeting's again in front of the screen, and that's all
everything's in front of the screen, isn't it? That's life.
Exactly. So thank you. Thanks for being part of the adventure and the experiment. Let's just all keep an eye on it. And get Catherine. Yeah, it'd be interesting, I think, to see whether the board, government boards can participate in the program. They're probably a bit more touchy about NDAs and so on. But yeah, be interesting.
Yeah,
it'd be great to have more participants, because, more boards, because as I said, I think there's way more high caliber participants than there are boards. So,
and it's a great way of ensuring that if it's a succession planning almost process to get people on your board, you know you've got well-trained people coming in. So that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yay. Okay. Well, thank you both.
And thank you, Morgana. Thank you both. No, it's been great. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good start to the Friday morning. Have a lovely weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Take care, bye.
Alrighty. Ciao.